The encounter. On a distant planet called Silara, the sky was filled with dark clouds. The air was thick with tension as the war between the alien species, the Solarians, and the ruthless Empire raged on. The ground was scared from battles, and the once beautiful landscape was now a battlefield. Amongst the chaos, a human soldier named Jake was part of a rescue mission, sent to save any survivors. Jake was trained for combat, but nothing could prepare him for what he was about to face. He moved cautiously through the dense forest, his heart racing with every step. He could hear distant explosions and the cries of his fellow soldiers, but his focus was on finding the survivors. As he pushed through the bushes, he suddenly stopped. In a small clearing, he saw her. She was lying on the ground, her shimmering green skin contrasting against the brown dirt. Her long, flowing hair was tangled, and she looked weak. Jake's heart sank. She was one of the Solarians, a species known for their beauty and strength. But now she seemed fragile and lost. Before he could think, Jake rushed to her side. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice soft and gentle. The alien looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. She tried to speak, but her voice was barely a whisper. "Help me," she pleaded, her voice filled with pain. Jake quickly scanned the area, making sure no enemies were nearby. He could hear footsteps approaching, and panic surged through him. "I'll get you out of here," he promised. He lifted her gently into his arms, feeling her warmth against his body. She was light but trembling, and he could sense her fear. As he moved through the trees, he heard the sounds of battle growing closer. The Empire's soldiers were searching for survivors, and they would not hesitate to attack. Jake's mind raced. He needed to find a safe place to hide. He spotted a small cave nearby, half hidden by vines and rocks. Without thinking twice, he dashed towards it, clutching the alien tightly. Inside the cave, it was dark and cool. Jake placed her down gently on the ground. "You're safe now," he said, trying to reassure her. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and confusion. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. Jake was taken aback. "Because it's the right thing to do," he replied honestly. He had been taught that Solarians were the enemy, but looking at her now, he felt a strong connection. She was just a victim of the war, like so many others. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice stronger now. She reached out, touching his arm lightly. A spark seemed to flow between them, and Jake felt a rush of emotions. It was more than just gratitude. It was a bond forming in the middle of chaos. As they sat together in the cave, the sounds of war faded away. For a moment, it was just the two of them, a human soldier and an alien woman, united by fate. Jake realized that saving her life might change everything. Little did he know, this encounter was just the beginning of a journey that would test their courage, trust, and the true meaning of purity. Learning to trust. Inside the dark cave, the air was thick with uncertainty. Jake watched as the alien woman took deep breaths, trying to calm herself. Her bright green eyes sparkled in the dim light, revealing both fear and hope. He wanted to comfort her, but he didn't know how. They were from different worlds, and communication felt like a barrier between them. My name is Jake," he said, trying to break the silence. "What's your name?" The alien hesitated, her gaze fixed on him. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft but clear. "I am Lyra." "Lyra," Jake repeated, letting the name sink in. It felt important, like a piece of a puzzle. "You're safe now, Lyra. The Empire won't find us here." She nodded slowly, but her eyes were still filled with doubt. Jake could see she was struggling to trust him, and he knew he had to earn it. "Do you want some water?" he asked, pulling out a small canteen from his pack. Lyra's eyes widened with surprise, and she nodded. Jake poured a little into his hand, offering it to her. She hesitated, looking at the water as if it were something strange. "It's okay," he reassured her. "It's just water. It will help you." After a moment, She took a small sip from his hand, and her expression changed. Relief washed over her face. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Seeing her relax a little made Jake feel a surge of hope. "Where are you from, Lyra?" he asked, trying to keep the conversation going. She looked down, her expression turning serious. "I come from a village near the river. We were peaceful people. The Empire came and took everything from us." Her voice trembled as she spoke, and Jake felt a pang of sadness. He realized she had lost so much. "What do you mean?" He pressed gently. "What did they take?" "My family," she replied, tears glistening in her eyes. "They captured them when they attacked. I was hiding when they found me." Jake's heart sank at her words. He couldn't imagine the fear she had felt. "I'm so sorry," he said softly. "I had no idea." Lyra looked up at him, her expression shifting. "But you saved me," she said, her voice stronger now. "You could have left me there. Why did you help?" Jake took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "I believe in doing what's right," he said. "I couldn't just leave you to die. We're not so different, you and I. We both want to survive." As they talked, Jake noticed Lyra's expression soften. She was starting to trust him, little by little. "Can I show you something?" she asked suddenly, her curiosity shining through. "Sure," Jake replied, intrigued. Lyra stood up slowly and walked to the back of the cave. There she touched the walls gently, and to Jake's amazement, the cave glowed with faint patterns of light. "It's beautiful," he exclaimed, taking a step closer. Lyra smiled for the first time, a genuine smile that lit up her face. "It is a part of my people's history. We can connect with the earth this way. It shows our feelings." Jake was fascinated. He felt a warmth in his chest as he looked at her. They were two souls in a dark world, finding light in each other's presence. "Thank you for sharing this with me, Lyra," he said earnestly. She met his gaze, and in that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. They were not just a soldier and a prisoner. They were allies, and perhaps something more. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, learning to trust one another with each shared moment. Danger approaches. As Jake and Lyra continued to bond in the cave, the sounds of battle faded into the background. For the first time in days, they felt a sense of peace. However, that peace was fragile, like a thin layer of ice ready to crack. They both knew that danger was still lurking outside. The sun was setting, casting a warm orange glow through the cave entrance. Jake stood at the mouth of the cave, peering out into the darkening forest. He listened carefully, straining to hear any signs of movement. Suddenly, a rustling noise broke the silence. Jake's heart raced. He quickly turned to Lyra, who was sitting on the ground, tracing patterns on the cave floor with her fingers. "Lyra, stay quiet," he whispered urgently. She looked up, her eyes wide with concern. Jake motioned for her to move back into the shadows of the cave. They needed to hide. As they crouched together, Jake could feel the tension in the air. He watched as shadows moved outside the cave. "It's the Empire," he thought, fear gripping his heart. He could see the flash of helmets and hear the low voices of soldiers. They were searching for survivors, and Jake knew they had to be careful. "I can hear them," Lyra said quietly, her voice trembling slightly. Jake nodded, his instincts telling him to stay still and silent. He squeezed her hand gently to comfort her. "We'll be okay," he whispered, though he was not sure if he believed it. The soldiers approached the cave, their boots crunching on the fallen leaves. Jake held his breath, wishing he could make them disappear. He peeked out just enough to see the soldiers moving closer. They were armed with weapons that glowed ominously in the fading light. "What if they find us?" Lyra whispered, fear evident in her eyes. Jake squeezed her hand again. "They won't. Just stay quiet and trust me." The soldiers began to talk among themselves, their voices growing louder. "We need to find those Xelarians. They can't escape," one soldier shouted. Keep searching every cave, another replied. Jake's heart raced. He realized they were determined to find Lyra and any other survivors. He needed to think quickly. Lyra, he whispered, can you use your skills to help us? Is there a way to hide our scent or make it harder for them to find us? Lyra's eyes brightened with hope. Yes, I can try. I know how to mask our scent using the plants around here. Jake watched as she gathered some leaves and herbs from the cave floor. She quickly began to crush them in her hands, mixing them into a paste. While she worked, Jake kept an eye on the soldiers. They were only a few feet away now, their voices filled with anger and frustration. They must be here somewhere. Search the cave, one of them yelled. Jake's heart sank. They were running out of time. Hurry, Lyra, he urged, his voice barely above a whisper. She finished mixing the paste and smeared it over their skin, her hands moving quickly. This should help, she said, looking up at him with determination. Just then, one of the soldiers stepped into the cave, his flashlight sweeping over the walls. Jake's breath caught in his throat as he instinctively pushed Lyra behind him. Stay back, he said fiercely. The soldier squinted into the darkness. I know you're in here. Show yourself. Jake felt a surge of adrenaline. They had to escape before it was too late. With no time to think, he grabbed Lyra's hand. We need to run, he said, pulling her towards the back of the cave. Together, they slipped into the shadows, hearts pounding as they evaded the soldiers' search. They knew danger was close, but they were determined to survive. Trust was growing between them, and as they fled deeper into the cave, they realized that they would face whatever came next together. Preparing for battle. As the echoes of the soldiers faded into the distance, Jake and Lyra found themselves deep within the cave, hidden from sight. The fear of discovery still hung in the air, but they knew they had to prepare for what was coming. The Empire would not stop searching for them, and they had to be ready to fight back. Jake, we need to find a way to defend ourselves, Lyra said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. She was beginning to feel the weight of their situation. Jake nodded in agreement, his mind racing with ideas. Let's make a plan, he replied. First, we need weapons. Do you have anything we can use? Lyra thought for a moment. I can create tools from the plants around here. Some of them are sharp and strong. She moved quickly to gather branches and vines from the cave. Jake watched as she worked, her determination inspiring him. As she crafted makeshift weapons, Jake began to think about their next steps. We'll need to find allies, he said. There must be other Xilarians who survived. If we can gather a group, we might stand a chance against the Empire. Lyra paused, her hands busy shaping a long branch into a spear. Yes, there are others hiding in the forest. They may be scared, but if we show them that we can fight back, they might join us. Jake felt a rush of hope. Let's do it. But first, we should train. I can teach you some combat moves, and you can show me how to use your tools. With a plan forming, they began to practice. Jake showed Lyra how to hold her spear, demonstrating basic thrusts and strikes. At first, she was hesitant, but as she practiced, her confidence grew. She moved with grace, her alien instincts guiding her. You're a natural, Jake encouraged, smiling as she improved. Lyra blushed at the compliment, her face lighting up. Thank you, Jake. It feels good to learn. After some time, it was Jake's turn to learn. Lyra showed him how to use the tools she had crafted. They were simple but effective. She taught him to use the spear for defense, to keep enemies at a distance. You need to be quick and aware, she advised. Always watch your surroundings. As they trained, they laughed and shared stories about their lives. Jake spoke about his family back on Earth, about the small things he missed, like playing catch with his little brother. Lyra listened intently, her eyes wide with curiosity. What is catch? She asked, tilting her head. It's a game we play with a ball. You throw it, and someone catches it, Jake explained, his heart warming at her innocence. Lyra smiled, imagining the game in her mind. "We should play it one day," she said, her tone playful. Hours passed as they trained and laughed, but soon the weight of reality settled back in. "We should rest for now," Jake said, feeling tired but determined. "Tomorrow, we'll head out to find the others." Lyra nodded, a serious look crossing her face. "We need to be careful. The Empire will not give up easily. We must stay strong." As they prepared to sleep, Jake made sure to keep watch at the entrance of the cave. Lyra nestled close to him, feeling a sense of safety she hadn't felt in a long time. Together, they closed their eyes, knowing that the next day would bring new challenges. As dawn broke, the cave filled with light, and the two of them woke with renewed energy. They were ready to face whatever the day would bring. With their plan in motion and their trust in each other growing, they stepped out of the cave, prepared for battle against the Empire and determined to find their allies. First fight. The sun rose high in the sky, casting warm light over the forest as Jake and Lyra emerged from the cave. They felt the weight of their mission pressing on their shoulders. Today was the day they would find the other survivors and begin their fight against the Empire. "Are you ready?" Jake asked, his heart pounding with excitement and fear. Lyra nodded, her grip tightening around the spear she had crafted. "Let's do this," she replied, determination shining in her eyes. They moved cautiously through the trees, keeping their ears open for any signs of life. Jake felt a mix of hope and anxiety as they ventured deeper into the forest. He glanced at Lyra, who walked beside him, her presence giving him strength. After a while, they reached a clearing where they saw a small group of Solarians gathered. They looked scared and wary, hiding behind large rocks and trees. Jake could see the fear in their eyes as they spotted him and Lyra approaching. "Hey, it's okay. We're not here to hurt you," Jake called out, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. The Solarians exchanged nervous glances, unsure of whether to trust him. Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady. "We are survivors like you. The Empire has taken so much from us, but we can fight back together." Slowly, one of the Solarians, an older male with deep green skin, stepped forward. "How can we trust you?" he asked, his voice filled with doubt. "We have a plan," Jake said quickly. "We can train together and form a team. We can be stronger together." He glanced at Lyra, who nodded in agreement. After a tense moment, the older Solarian sighed. "Very well. We will listen. But if you betray us, we will not hesitate to defend ourselves." With that, they began to form a small circle, and Jake explained their plan. They would train together and prepare for an attack on the Empire's supply line, which was vulnerable in this part of the forest. The group listened intently, and slowly their fears began to fade. However, just as they were about to start their training, the air grew heavy with tension. A sudden noise shattered the calm. A group of Empire soldiers appeared on the edge of the clearing, weapons drawn. "Get back," Jake shouted, pushing Lyra behind him as he instinctively grabbed his spear. The Solarians froze, fear spreading through the group. "Capture them," one of the soldiers yelled, charging forward with his weapon raised. Jake's heart raced as he shouted, "We have to fight." Lyra, recalling their training, took a deep breath and focused. She moved quickly, her spear thrusting toward the nearest soldier. Jake followed her lead, swinging his spear with all his strength. The soldiers were caught off guard, but they quickly regained their footing. The battle erupted around them. Jake dodged to the side as a soldier swung at him, narrowly avoiding the blow. He countered with a strike of his own, feeling the rush of adrenaline surge through his veins. Lyra fought fiercely, using her agility to outmaneuver her opponents. She remembered Jake's lessons, aiming for their weak spots. With each thrust, she felt stronger, her confidence growing as she defended her new friends. The other Solarians found their courage and joined the fight. Together, they worked as a team, using the element of surprise to their advantage. Jake could see their fear turning into determination as they fought back against the Empire's soldiers. But just as they began to gain the upper hand, more soldiers arrived, surrounding them. "We're outnumbered," Jake shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "Stay together," Lyra yelled, rallying the Xilarians. They formed a tight circle, defending each other as best they could. The fight was fierce, but they were fighting for their freedom, and that gave them strength. In the heat of the battle, Jake locked eyes with Lyra. They both knew they had to hold on, no matter the odds. With one final push, they fought back against the soldiers, their spirits unyielding. The first fight was not just about survival. It was about standing together and finding strength in their unity. The meaning of purity. After the intense battle, the clearing was filled with silence, broken only by the heavy breaths of the fighters. Jake, Lyra, and the other Xilarians had managed to drive the Empire soldiers away, but not without cost. Some of their newfound allies were injured, and the weight of the fight pressed heavily on their hearts. As they caught their breath, Jake looked around at the faces of the Xilarians. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with disbelief. "We fought together and won." Lyra smiled weakly, but her eyes were clouded with concern. "But we lost some of our friends," she said softly, her gaze drifting to the wounded. "We need to remember their bravery." Jake nodded, feeling a wave of sadness wash over him. "You're right. They fought for their freedom, just like we did." He turned to Lyra, noticing her sadness. "You fought well today, Lyra. I'm proud of you." Her expression shifted, and she looked away. "Thank you, Jake. But it is not just about fighting. There is something more important." "What do you mean?" Jake asked, curious. Lyra took a deep breath, her heart racing. "In my culture, we have a belief about purity. It means more than just being clean or innocent. It is about trust, love, and the connections we share with others. When I offered you my purity, I was giving you a part of my heart. It is a symbol of my trust in you." Jake felt a warmth spread through him at her words. "I didn't understand that before," he admitted. "I thought it was just a way of showing gratitude. But now I see how deep it is." Lyra looked into his eyes, her expression serious. "In times of war, it can be easy to lose that connection. We must remember what we are fighting for: each other, our families, and our right to be free. Purity helps us stay grounded, no matter the chaos around us." As she spoke, Jake realized how much he had come to care for her. Their bond had grown stronger through the battles they faced together. "I feel that connection too, Lyra," he said earnestly. "You've become so important to me. I don't just want to fight alongside you. I want to protect you and build a future together." Lyra's eyes widened, surprise and hope flickering across her face. "You really mean that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Jake replied, his heart racing. "I want us to have a life beyond this war. I want to know you better, not just as a warrior, but as a person." A smile broke across Lyra's face, and the tension in the air lifted. "Then we must stay true to our values. We need to inspire our friends, not just with strength, but with love and trust. That is how we will win this fight." Jake nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "Let's gather everyone and share this. We need to remind them that we are more than just soldiers. We are a family now." Lyra agreed, and together they walked to the group of Xilarians who were recovering from the fight. As they approached, Jake felt a surge of hope. They would not only fight the Empire together, but they would also build a community based on trust and unity. "Everyone," Jake called out, raising his voice to capture their attention. "Today, we fought for our freedom and for each other. We have lost much, but we can also gain so much more if we remember the meaning of purity in our hearts." Lyra stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. "We are united, not just as warriors, but as friends and family. Let us protect each other and cherish the bonds we create. Together, we can overcome anything." The Xilarians nodded, Their spirits lifted. In that moment, Jake knew that they were not just fighting against the Empire. They were fighting for their very humanity, for love, trust, and a brighter future. Planning the final attack. With the sun setting behind the trees, casting a golden glow over the clearing, Jake and Lyra gathered the Excelarians around a large rock. The atmosphere was filled with a mix of excitement and tension. They knew that their next move was crucial, and they had to plan carefully. "Listen up, everyone," Jake called, his voice strong and confident. The Excelarians turned their attention to him, their expressions serious. "We've fought hard to get this far. Now it's time to take the fight to the Empire and show them we will not be defeated." Lyra stood beside him, her eyes shining with determination. "We need a plan that allows us to strike at their supply line. This is our chance to weaken them and gain the upper hand." Jake nodded. "Right. Their main supply depot is not far from here. We can use the element of surprise to our advantage. If we hit them at night, they won't see us coming." A murmur of agreement swept through the group, and Jake felt a surge of hope. "We can split into smaller teams. Some of us will create distractions while others sneak into the depot to destroy their supplies." One of the older Excelarians raised his hand. "What kind of distractions can we create?" Lyra smiled, stepping forward. "I can use the plants in this area to make smoke bombs. They will create confusion and give us cover to move in." "Great idea," Jake replied, feeling inspired. "We can also use noise to draw attention away from our main team. A few of us can make sounds in the forest to lead the guards away." As they discussed their ideas, Jake felt a sense of unity growing among the group. They were no longer just fighters. They were a family, working together toward a common goal. "I'll take charge of making the smoke bombs," Lyra said. "I know which plants to use. They'll create enough smoke to cover our movements." Jake turned to the others. "While Lyra works on that, we need to gather weapons and supplies. Let's check the area for anything we can use." The Excelarians sprang into action, their fear replaced by determination. Jake felt a rush of pride as he watched them work together, gathering resources and sharing ideas. He knew they were ready for this fight. As night fell, the forest became alive with sounds. The moon cast a soft light, and Jake felt the cool breeze against his skin. The time for action was near. They gathered again, this time with their weapons ready. "Remember, the goal is to create confusion," Jake reminded them. "Once we're in, we'll take out their supplies and any guards we find. Stay close to your teammates, and don't let fear take over." Lyra moved through the group, her presence calming those who were nervous. "We've come this far together. We can do this if we trust each other. Remember the meaning of purity. It's about our connections and the love we share." With that, they began to move toward the Empire's supply depot, the air thick with tension and anticipation. Jake led the way, heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. As they approached the depot, the sound of guards could be heard. "Stay low and quiet," Jake whispered. They moved like shadows, each step calculated and careful. Lyra stayed close to Jake, her spear ready, and he could feel her determination beside him. Once they reached the edge of the depot, Jake signaled for the group to halt. "Lyra, are you ready with the smoke bombs?" "Yes," she replied, her voice steady. "On my count, we create the distraction," Jake said, holding up his hand. 3, 2, 1, now." Lyra threw the smoke bombs into the air, and thick clouds of smoke erupted, filling the area with chaos. Guards shouted in confusion, looking around in panic. Jake and the others rushed in, their hearts pounding as they fought to reclaim their freedom. They knew this was their moment, their chance to change the course of the battle. With unity and courage, they charged into the fight, ready to take back what the Empire had stolen from them. The last battle. The air was thick with tension as Jake and the Excelarians moved through the swirling smoke toward the heart of the Empire's supply depot. The sound of guards shouting echoed in the distance, but their fear was replaced by determination. This was the moment they had been preparing for, the last battle to reclaim their freedom. Jake felt his heart race as they pushed through the chaos. "Stick together," he yelled, rallying the group. "We need to move fast and hit them hard." Lyra was at his side, her spear gleaming in the dim light. "Let's show them we won't be afraid anymore," she declared, her voice strong and filled with resolve. As they neared the main supply area, they spotted a group of soldiers gathered around crates, confused by the smoke. Jake seized the opportunity. "Now, attack," he shouted, leading the charge. With a fierce battle cry, the Xilarians surged forward, their weapons raised. Jake swung his spear at the nearest soldier, the impact sending him stumbling back. Lyra moved fluidly beside him, her spear striking true as she dispatched another enemy with precision. The chaos of battle surrounded them, shouts and clangs of metal filling the air. Jake felt a surge of adrenaline as he fought alongside his new friends. They were no longer just individuals, they were a united force, fighting for their freedom. As they pressed deeper into the depot, they encountered more guards. Jake's breath came in short gasps, but he pushed through the fatigue. "Keep fighting. We can't give up now," he yelled, his voice ringing with determination. The Xilarians fought bravely, but the Empire was not going down without a fight. Suddenly, a loud explosion erupted nearby, sending debris flying. Jake ducked just in time, but he felt the ground shake beneath him. "We need to get to the control center," he shouted. "That's where they manage their supplies." Lyra nodded, her eyes fierce. "Lead the way. We'll follow you." They fought their way through the debris, making their way toward the control center. The battle grew fiercer as they approached, and Jake felt a mix of fear and hope. He could see the control room up ahead, but it was guarded by several soldiers. "Lyra, can you create a distraction?" Jake asked, spotting a stack of crates nearby. "If you can draw their attention, we can sneak in." "Leave it to me," she replied, determination etched on her face. With a swift motion, she threw another smoke bomb toward the guards. The smoke billowed out, obscuring their vision. "Now," Jake yelled as he dashed forward with his spear. He and a few other Xilarians rushed into the control room while the guards were distracted. Inside, the room was filled with buttons and screens displaying maps and supply routes. Jake felt a surge of excitement. "This is it. We can destroy their operations," he said, scanning the room for anything useful. One of the Xilarians, an engineer named Kira, quickly began to work on the control panel. "If I can access their systems, I can shut down their supply lines," she exclaimed, fingers flying over the controls. Outside, the sounds of battle continued to rage. Jake could hear Lyra's voice calling out, encouraging their friends to keep fighting. He felt a rush of pride knowing they were all in this together. "Come on, Kira. We need to hurry," Jake urged, glancing back at the door as he heard footsteps approaching. "I'm almost there," Kira shouted, her eyes focused and intense. Just as the door burst open, revealing a squad of angry soldiers, Kira shouted, "Done." She pressed a final button, and the alarms began to blare. "Let's go," Jake yelled, grabbing a few supplies as he turned to face the oncoming soldiers. The time for escape was now. They dashed out of the control room, dodging the guards as they retreated back into the chaos of the battle. The depot was in disarray, and the Empire's soldiers were losing their grip. As they fought their way back through the smoke and confusion, Jake realized they were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for a future filled with hope, freedom, and the bonds they had formed. Together, they were stronger than they had ever been, and they would not back down. The last battle was not just a fight. It was a stand for everything they believed in. Hope for the future. As dawn broke over the forest, the first light of day filtered through the trees, casting a soft glow over the chaos left behind by the battle. The sounds of clashing weapons and shouted orders faded into silence. The air was heavy with the smell of smoke, but for Jake and the Xilarians, it also carried a sense of victory. After escaping the Empire's supply depot, they had retreated to a safe distance, breathing heavily but filled with hope. They gathered in a small clearing, each member of the group still buzzing with adrenaline from the fight. "We did it," Jake exclaimed, looking around at the faces of his friends. "We fought back, and we won." Lyra stood next to him, her expression a mix of pride and relief. "Today, we showed the Empire that we will not be defeated. We have the strength to fight for our freedom." The Xelarians cheered, their voices ringing out in the early morning air. They had faced great danger, and though there were injuries among them, their spirits remained high. They had proven their courage and unity, and now they felt the warmth of hope blossoming in their hearts. "Now we need to spread the word," Kira said, adjusting her bandage. "There are still other survivors out there. We can gather more people to join our cause." Jake nodded, the idea igniting a fire in him. "Yes, if we can unite more Xelarians, we can push back against the Empire even further. We have to let them know they are not alone." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes bright with determination. "We should start by visiting the nearby villages. Many people are hiding in fear, but we can inspire them to join us. They need to see that we can win." The group quickly agreed, and plans were made. They would set out immediately to gather more allies. As they began to pack their supplies, Jake felt a sense of purpose flooding through him. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a leader, and he had a mission. As they prepared to leave, Jake took a moment to look at Lyra. "You've been incredible through all of this," he said sincerely. "I couldn't have done it without you." Lyra smiled softly, her heart warming at his words. "We did this together, Jake. It was all of us, fighting as one. That's what makes us strong." With their plan in place, the group set out into the morning light. They moved quickly through the forest, their spirits buoyed by the hope of what lay ahead. Each step felt lighter. The weight of fear lifted from their shoulders. As they approached the first village, Jake felt a mix of excitement and nerves. He had seen how fear could hold people back, but now they had the chance to offer hope. He knew that if they could inspire others to join their fight, they could truly change the course of their future. When they reached the village, they found it quiet and still. The doors were closed and windows were shuttered. Jake stepped forward, calling out, "We come in peace. We are here to help." After a moment, a small group of villagers cautiously emerged, their faces wary but curious. Jake quickly explained what had happened at the depot and how they had fought back against the Empire. "We won," he said, his voice steady. "And we want to help you fight for your freedom too. Together, we can stand against them." As he spoke, Jake saw the flicker of hope in their eyes. Slowly, one by one, the villagers began to step forward, their fear giving way to the possibility of change. "We can't stay hidden forever," one villager said, stepping into the light. "We want to fight for our future." Jake's heart soared as he looked at Lyra and the other Xelarians. They had started a movement, and the future they dreamed of was becoming a reality. The Empire might have been strong, but their unity was stronger. With each village they visited, more and more people joined them, their numbers growing as they spread the message of hope and courage. The fight was far from over, but together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The spirit of resistance was alive, and for the first time in a long while, Jake believed in a brighter future. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for a life filled with freedom, love, and unity.